have a symbol for you.
Okay.
And since we're experiencers, I guess. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm more of a lucid or out of body experiencer, I'll just say. So here's one that we can think about. I woke up in the lucid state. I was in the dark room, and I was sitting at a desk. In front of me on the desk was two monitors in a V shape, right? So there's one on the left, one on the right. There were entities behind me, and all I can tell you is that I think they were in black suits. On the images, on the monitors, these symbols flashed at like 1 frame per second at a very high rate. And after a little bit, I mean, and I'm sitting there and I'm fully conscious. You got to understand, when you're lucid dreaming, it's like it's real when you're lucid dreaming.
Yeah.
So the images are flashing, and then it stopped. But on one side, on the right side, it stopped at a specific symbol. And the only way I can describe the symbol is like if you look at the OOBE symbol, or like a symbol for, I think it's when you do yoga or something. It's on the left side of the symbol. There's like an elongated number 3. And on the right side of the symbol is something else. Well, I only got the left side, which is like an elongated at the bottom part of a number 3 was elongated, and it stayed on that symbol. Then immediately I woke up. Now there's one thing that with my lucid dreams, and I've had a gazillion of them. I'm sort of on the plane, Grant, of you interviewed Tracy Gunbutt. She did work at the remote viewing work at the Monroe Institute.
Right.
Okay, so that is who I am. If you want to know, like trying to get a glimpse of where I'm coming from. So in that state, it was like I was downloaded with all these images, and then it stopped on one, and I remembered it, and then I drew it. And I can send it to you if you want it, but
yeah,
I drew it, and the only thing that I found was I think it was for yoga or something, whatever it was. There was the left side of that symbol that I was left with in memory. So I wrote it down. Now, you were talking about musicians. Is there anyone out here that's a musician? I'm a musician. And when it comes down to the Monroe Institute, I can identify with Tracy. I mean, it blew my mind when I heard you interview. It totally blew my mind because it was me. So I was part of the Monroe Institute. It was just a chat room, right?
Yeah.
And everyone would log on, whenever, and just talk about their experiences. Now, this is back in the late 90s. I knew nothing about, at the time, they have a HemiSync program that you can download or buy or whatever, right? So prior to me joining the Monroe Institute, what happened was I kept having all these out-of-body experiences. I didn't know, what to do with it. So I had a friend of mine. We were all IT guys. So I'm a musician and I'm an IT guy.
Okay.
Oh my God.
my friend said, Robin, there's something going on here. You have to read this book, right? So he bought me 2 books. One was Timothy Leary, Be Here, Be Now. And the other one was Journeys Out of the Body by Robert Monroe.
Okay.
So I'm reading this book, and I'm oh my God, I developed. Now this stuff is a science. No matter what anyone says, it's a science because I developed my own process.
Wow.
Okay, one of staying out there longer because you don't want to come back.
Yeah.
Staying out there longer, you know, you can do things. And so what I was doing to stay out there was the same thing that this guy was doing. And this is back, I don't know when he was out there. I don't know, 19, 20, 30, 40. I don't know what it was. So I'm freaking out when I'm reading this book. So my nephew says, well, Robin, you know, the Monroe Institute has this program, right? And I'm like, yeah, what do you mean program? Yeah, it's a program, you know, you put your headphones on and you listen to this stuff and boom, you can get out. So here's the crazy thing. Prior to him, my nephew telling me about this Hemi Sync thing, one of my most vivid experiences, when I came out of it, I heard these sounds. And when you come out of some of these heavy experiences, you feel like you're being shocked, but you know, you get used to it because you lose your fear. So I'm coming out of this vivid experience and I'm hearing all these sounds and I'm like, whoa. So I got up, I'm a musician, go to my keyboard and reproduce all the sounds because I remembered.
Wow.
Then I realized that physically I can create these sounds at will. I noticed that one day that I yawned. I yawned one day. I'm like, whoa, that's weird. I just heard these sounds again, right? So, and actually it sounds exactly like the Hemi Sync program. The only difference is that you have to have certain tones on the right and the left side of your headphones. The only difference was that my tones were different than what they had, because I was blown away when I went out there and listened to their demo. And I'm thinking, I didn't even know about this, but I recreated my own, you know, based on what I experienced. So I could take my recordings of the tones, and basically it's a tone in one ear, a tone in the other ear, and then either white or pink noise. I use pink noise because it's darker, or brown noise. Actually, I went deeper, brown noise. Wow. If you want to know what it sounds like, no, and I can send you it, but if you want to know what it sounds like, if you watch the movie Contact,
okay,
you remember the sounds that they heard? Bam, 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 you know, that they recorded, they picked up?
Yep.
It's exactly, I'm telling you, I'm not crazy. It is exactly like that, where you hear a million tones, right?
Yeah.
When you're out there, you hear a million tones, but I can isolate, for some reason, my body, and I don't know if it's my head or if it's my ears, I can reproduce these sounds, right? Yeah. However, when you are coming out of a vivid lucid experience or an OBE, it's not like one or two sounds, you know, that will play in your ear. It's a plethora of sound, these tones. It's not screeching. It's kind of interesting, really, but it sounds like, if you go watch the movie Contact and listen to what they were listening to, they were recording. And it has harmonics, just like in the movie. That's what I heard coming out. However, when I yawn, I hear two tones that fluctuate on the left side and one tone on the right side, something like that. I recorded them. So what happened was, on the recording, I worked out this process. I'd go to bed, and if I woke up at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, I roll over, put my headphones on, listen to it, right? For about 15 or 20, roll over, and you have to do this relaxation. I know when I was back in the 80s, I would do transcendental meditation and all this self-hypnosis stuff. So I would use the relaxation techniques to get me at this point. Then I'd stop listening to the tones, roll on my right side. Now that was important, on my right side. And the next thing you know, I was out. And I mean, I have a gazillion stories, but you know, I don't want to take up every time. But you wanted to know if they were a musician. Yes, I'm a musician. in my experience here, I don't know what you call it, but I've had many OBEs, and I'm exactly like, I identify with Tracy because I know exactly what she was saying. It was almost like me talking, but it was her. So,
Rob, can I make a comment?
With that, I'll jump off.
Rob, can I make a comment on your?
Sure.
On your OBE and your vivid dream? You find yourself in a dark place. You see, that's introversion. When it's dark, it means dim your logos. And an out-of-body experience is a sure sign that it's a connection to anti-gravity and inertialness, like you see in UFOs. In other words, it's all about your subtle body development. It's about your diamond body development. To have OBEs, it's a call to enhance your consciousness. In other words, to raise your soul to a higher consciousness, to evolve more. This is what I know about such experiences I've had in myself. So this is what I've come to make out of them for whatever it's worth to you guys. Just sharing there. That's it.
Well, all right, that's interesting. That's interesting because that was just one experience, being in the dark place with the guys in the black suits and them flashing images in front of my face. Let's think about this. Take this example. Me being in a place filled with a lot of people, but I was interested in one person. So I'm at the bottom level, and then there's this, like a loft, a bunch of people. And there was a particular woman that I focused on for some reason. I don't know. Trust me, I'm fully lucid though, but for some reason I needed to talk to this woman. So I flew up easily, like it was nothing, flew up to the loft, right? I went to this person. The first thing I did was I put my hand out. I can't remember, I think it was my right hand, and I levitated her, lifted her off the ground, right? Lifted her off the floor, picked her up, and I said, "You're going to come with me." So I, like Superman and Lois Lane, I flew her down to the bottom level, right? And then she walked away from me, right? First of all, I thought it was really cool that I could levitate her. It was what I wanted to do, but it was so easy. But it was crazy. It's like it's act of not trying that allows that to happen. So she walks away, and I don't know why I followed her. She went through a door to my and locked the door. I couldn't get in. So what did I do? I walked through the wall, came out on the other side, and it's not like I was guessing. I knew that I can walk through this wall. And believe me, I've done it before in these excursions where you can hear it. You can hear what it sounds like, your body moving through the wall. Makes a sound, and you can feel just a little bit, but for the most part, it makes this crunching sound, right? I come out on the other side. There she was with a bunch of guys sitting at a control center. And I'm looking at, oh, wow, this is deep right there. But it was old. It wasn't modern. It looked like, you know, the 1950s or something, you know, 40s, like these big knobs and big, you know, round screens with, you know, dials on them and stuff. And I thought, oh, well, this is really cool. But then everything was gone. So I lost it. So there was nothing dark. It was almost like, you know, I tried to figure out, A, did I get what I wanted as far as levitating a person? Because I've levitated objects, small objects. That was the first time I levitated a person. And second of all, that was the third time that I had walked through the wall. So am I being shown that this is possible? Am I being trained? You know, I mean, the whole thing with the images is really deep because there were guys with black suits off to my left, you know, with these images flashing in front of my face. Now I'm levitating stuff at will, right? Pretty much at will, to the point where it's so real. I mean, if you've had your experiences with out-of-body stuff or OB, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Because us humans have a problem with thinking that we know everything, and we got to put a label on it, and we want to talk about it. And then there's philosophers, too many words. This stuff that I've experienced doesn't deserve a whole bunch of words. You know what I mean? It's just, this is what happened. This is how it worked. This is what it felt like. Boom. But what does it mean?
Well, I think it means, Rob, the emphasis is on your subtle body development. And interestingly, you meet a woman now who is also in her subtle body, if you can levitate her in that sense. I don't mean to detract from your own understanding of it, but just another point of view. The goal is not to figure out how to levitate or any of that. The goal is how to, evolve your consciousness. In other words, turn the whole thing around 180 degrees and say, what is this saying to me? What is all this phenomena saying to me? What's the universe saying to me through this? I just read a book by Paul Levy called Quantum Revelation, and how we can learn from the quantum world and if we observe it correctly. And I think that there's something here because the UFOs do this. They can have various degrees of materiality and various degrees of subtleness. They go all the way back and forth. It's like they're mirroring something we need to be conscious of. I don't know if that's too far afield, but that's kind of what I'm getting into.
Back when I was younger, I used to have a lot of out-of-body experiences, and I learned all the different things you can do when you're out of your body, like passing through walls and walking through windows, like going right through the glass. One time I tried to walk through a wall and there was like a barrier there, and I put my hand out and I felt the electrical wires in the wall, and I could feel the electricity pulsing through. It was almost like a Faraday cage kind of effect, Then there was another time when I was with some people. I was out of the body and I was with some people, and I was showing them some of the things you can do. And I walked up the side of a building, but I had to, it was like a real exercise of will to be able to do this, because I kept drifting off the building, and I had to exercise my will to get my feet to go back onto the side of the building so I could walk up the side of it. And, one of the things that is easy to do is fly up into really high trees, because you can fly like Superman in that state. And when you jump out of a tree or jump off a building, you come down very slow, and you don't hit the ground like you're falling. There was one time I wanted to see what this astral cord was like that I'd heard people talking about quite a bit. So I reached around behind my back to see if I could find it. And what I felt was it felt like a tree trunk growing out from between my shoulder blades. So I grabbed this thing and wrapped my hand around it, and I pulled it around the front so I could look at it. And I was holding it in my hands, and it was the astral cord, and it was kind of glowing, like with a silvery glow around it. And so I can honestly say that does exist, that astral cord. But anyway, I just wanted to get that in there. And I am a musician, and I'm also an experiencer, and I have a submission on Joanna's album that's coming out as well. So.
And your entire band was abducted in 1972?
Yeah, in 1972, my band was abducted, and I was examined by extraterrestrial beings who were the gray kind with the large heads and the big, large black eyes. And, they used some different technology on me. This device that they use to look in your body. It's like it looked like a little bigger than a cell phone and thicker, and it shone a green light. And when the being put it on his arm, I could see his skeletal structure where the light was hitting. And he also used this device on me. He said, "Now I want to try it on you." And he had me hold my arm out. He tried it on me. And I could see, when he did it to me, I could see the bones. I could also see the muscles and the veins. And I could see the veins pulsing with my heartbeat. And I did an interview with Grant, actually, on this. It's on YouTube, about this technology that they used. And they also used it on Susie Hansen as well. She also has a video with the interview with Grant.
Yeah, the same thing. I see Alien Protocol has. Can you jump in here? Did you see this technology as well? Because this is now public, this technology, at least for the veins.
This is similar. It can scan anything basically and then recreate it as a image on a flat surface, or can project it as kind of a hologram. So it could scan your cell phone and just show you the parts that are manganese and project those, or it could show them all in different colors. It's kind of a scanner and a reproducer. There's also other technologies like this weird egg light thing that kind of just shaped like an egg, and it shines light. I guess it's a scanner for bodies. And there's other devices that are associated, like different people talk about either iPads or wrist devices that have a communication. They're really thin kind of bands that go on wrists, and they're like sensors for the area to tell you what's going on in the area, different types of sensors. So a lot of different experiencers have reported different science objects. And I think if you correlate a lot of the different science and the different observations of different experiencers with video and with a bunch of different factors, I think you could really correlate some fascinating data, and you could pull out, you could extrapolate some, interesting possibilities. Just hearing the gang speak so far, talking about out-of-body experiences and left brain, right brain, and the powers of the subconscious, and everyone from Steve to talking about different real experiences that they felt in a non-local way. And I think a lot of experiencers, because they have contact to this subconscious realm, this non-physical world, this realm where remote viewers operate, where experiences take place, where healing and psychic powers take place, where all these different things all seem to line up right now. And maybe we're tapping into consciousness, or maybe we're tapping into the Akashic record. Maybe we're tapping into all of space and all of time. Who knows? But there's indisputably real powers of the mind that come from out-of-body experiences, that are connected to near-death experiences, that are connected to the indisputable powers from doing. So I think people like Steve, who had a pre-established open access to, different people call it different things, but this subconscious realm, some people call it, we call it the Lyman. Some people call it, like Dan, the monad. Different people call it different things, the oneness, whatever. He had a connection. So he was primed for contact because, extraterrestrials and UFOs use this same power of the subconscious. And our musician friend, I'm sorry, I don't know your name, bro, but, when I hear you talking about getting your inspiration and these tones hitting you, experiencers resonate with that, because we know that the powers of the subconscious and these tones and get you into that kind of place of access to the universe. And for some reason, they've correlated it also with theta waves. Remote viewers have said a lot of theta wave activity is indicative of more accurate remote viewings. And there's things you can do to increase your theta waves, like the bilateral beats. You can have 4 hertz in one ear and 6 hertz in the other ear. In the middle is 5 hertz, and that's the prime theta wave hertz. And that can get you to this subconscious state and give you access to what really is all of space and time, as incredible and unbelievable as it seems. But it also, correlates to UFOs. So if you're able to make this access, you are more primed for communication with UFOs and extraterrestrials. So for creative people to be, statistically more often experiencers, seems like a very logical to me. It just seems like a natural progression. Wouldn't you want to speak to people who create rather than people who destroy?
Good point. Steve, are you still there? Just for everybody's entertainment, one of the best stories I've ever heard is Steve talking about being at Brock University as a musician and everybody gets abducted. Can you tell that story, Steve?
Yeah, it's kind of it was the same band that was abducted. I was in back in 1972. And this was a gig that we played at Brock University at the Brock Pub. It's known as Alfie's Trough, and it's still there to this day. But we played there in 1972, and when we were on our way in with our equipment, we had this dolly with wheels that we had all the amps on and the drums and stuff. And we had to go down this hallway of Brock to get to the back of the building, and then you exit through the back of the building to get out toward the pub. So I was walking down the hallway with the guys, and I noticed at the end of the hallway there was these beings that were moving around there, like they were grays, and I pointed it out to the guys. I said, "Hey, look down at the end of the hallway there. It looks like there's aliens or something." And the guys looked and they said, "Yeah, you're right. It does look like aliens." They went around the side of the walls. We couldn't see them anymore. And one of them opened the door that goes down into a classroom in there that's kind of like an amphitheater. You go down the stairs to get to the stage. And I was thinking, when I get to that door, I'm going to open it and look in there and see if I can see this being. So when I got to the door, I opened it up, but it was pitch black inside. I couldn't see anything. So I closed the door and we kept walking. And as soon as we rounded the corner, they were there. There was like about at least 3, maybe 4 beings. And they separated us from one another immediately. That seems to be a protocol that they use that I've noticed in the past as well. They separate you from one another, and they wanted to know where we were going, what we were doing there, and we told them that we had a gig to play at Alfie's Trough, the bar in the back. And they said, "Are you being paid or paid for it?" And we said, "Yeah." And so they said, "And they're expecting you." And we said, "Yeah." And we were all kind of shook up because we didn't expect this. But so the one being looked over at the others and he said, "We have to let them go. They're going to be missed." And so they got us back together and they said, "You won't remember any of this. When you go out the door, you won't remember any of it." And so we turned around, we went to go out the door and immediately forgot. We got out the door, we were outside, and we walked over to the pub. And we walked up the stairs to get to the door of the pub and carried the equipment up. And I just happened to look over the side and I saw one of the beings walking around to the side of the building. And I said, "Hey, look at that." And the only person that was there beside me was Anne-Marie. She was the girlfriend of the drummer. And she later married the guitarist. But anyway, she looked over and she also saw the being. And then almost immediately, we forgot about it. And we were banging on the door, and the guys opened the door to the pub. We went in and set up our equipment. And I remember Bob and Doug McKenzie were playing on the TV. They had a TV up on the wall, and we were setting up our equipment. It was like I think it was a Saturday night, and it was one of the busiest nights of the week. And we got all set up, and there was nobody there except the staff. And it was coming around to time for us to play, and there was still nobody there. And so we played a set for basically just for the staff at the bar. And then we sat down, had a couple of drafts, and we said, where's the audience? There should be people here by now. And the bartender said, I don't know. He says, I don't understand it. He says, this is the busiest night of the week. He says, it's usually jam-packed in here. So we played another set, and about the middle of the second set, the bartender said, well, you might as well take a break because there's nobody here, And so we sat down again, we waited, and still nobody showed up. And so anyway, we played a little bit more, and then the bartender came over and he says, I don't understand why there's nobody here. He says, usually this night it's jam-packed with people, but he said, you might as well pack up your gear and go home, and I'll pay you for the night because you showed up and you played. But he says, I don't understand why it's like this. So we were all kind of confused about this. So the guitarist said to me, he gave me his keys and he said, would you go down to the van and get the dolly and bring it so we can load the equipment on it? And so I said, okay. And I left to go to the van. I went back in through the back end of the building that we came out of. And I noticed that there was some activity going on down the hallway. And this was like pretty late at night. And so I looked down the hallway and I could see some movement of some people moving around. And I thought, I'm going to see what's going on down here. So I walked down the hallway. And when I got to this intersection of another hallway, I turned and I looked down the hallway, and there was about 100 or so people, all young people, all standing there in a line. They weren't really talking or saying anything. They were just all standing there. And so I walked up to one of them and I said, what are you guys all doing standing here in the hallway? And they said, well, the men told us to stand here. And I said, what men? And they said, the men that were here a little while ago. And I said, well, what do they make you stand here for? And they said, well, they come and they take a few of us at a time, and they ask the rest of us to stand here and wait until it's our turn. And I was just kind of dumbfounded by this. So I went into the washroom, I used the washroom, and I came back out, and they were all still standing there. And then a being came in through the back door and walked over to where the people in the hallway were. And he saw me standing there out of line talking to them. And he said, you there? He said, what are you doing? He said, you're supposed to be waiting in the line. And I said, no. I said, I'm not part of this group. And he said, well, you're supposed to wait there in the line with them. And I said, I can't. I have to go and get the dolly from the van. I'm a musician, and we played over here at the bar. and this guy, he kind of looked human to me, and at first. So he came over to me and he says, well, you can't stand here, and you're not supposed to talk to these people. He says, you're going to have to come with me right now. And I said, I can't. They're expecting me. I have to go. And he says, no. He says, you have to come with me right now. And I looked back at all these people standing in the hallway, and it suddenly occurred to me that this was our audience. You know, all these people lined up in the hallway was our audience. These were the people that were supposed to come and see us play at the bar there. So anyway, the being took me outside, and it was in wintertime. There was snow all over the ground, and I saw all these footprints heading off to the corner of the building. And it was like, you know, hundreds of footprints in the snow, all going in the same direction. And he started taking me that way. And as we were walking, I was looking at him, and I was thinking to myself that this guy doesn't really look human to me. Like, he's looking more and more like a gray the longer I spent with him. And anyway, we get around to the corner of the building, and as soon as we rounded the corner, there was this saucer-shaped craft sitting there in the parking lot. And the door was open, and there was light inside. There was stuff going on in there. And so this being brought me up to the doorway of the craft. And a woman came to the doorway, and she was dressed like a nurse, like a human nurse. And the being said, can you take this one now? And she says, no. She says, I've got too many people in here as it is. And he said, well, what do you want me to do with him? And she said, well, take him where he has to go, you know, and then come back, because we need your help, you know. So he took me back down the road toward the bar. And I thought, the guys are going to be really upset, because I've been gone for a while now, and I still haven't got the dolly yet. So I said to this guy, this being, would you come with me and explain to these people where I've been, because they're going to be really wondering. And he said, no, I can't. And I said, well, can you at least stand there so I can point you out, say this is who I was with, and maybe they'll believe me when I tell them. And he said, well, I can stand there and wait for a few minutes, but then I have to go. So I saw them, the van was there, and the guys were loading all the stuff into the van. And I walked over to them, and they called me, my nickname was Boucher. My last name was Boucher. And they said, Boucher, where the heck were you? They said, we've been looking all over for you. We thought you'd just taken off on us or something. And I said, no. I said, I was with that guy over there. And I pointed to the being, and I could see him standing there by the tree. And they said, what guy? And I said, that guy over there. And then as I was pointing to him, he started fading away. And all I could see was the tree. He just kind of faded away. And they said, well, they said, we sent you to get the dolly. And they said, if Sam hadn't had another set of keys hidden on the van, we wouldn't have been able to get in there and get the dolly and get our stuff loaded. And so they were really upset with me, because I'd been gone a long time with the keys, and I didn't know he had another set of keys. I thought they were there waiting for me when I got back. But anyway, so I got in the van, and they were really upset with me, and I tried to tell them what happened, and they didn't want to hear it. They just were angry. And so that's where that episode ended.
Hey, Steve, I think what's also really interesting that when we spoke some while ago about that experience where the band was taken, that you left one of your recorders or woodwind instruments with one of the ETs. They seemed interested.
Yeah, in the first incident where they abducted my band, I did give one of the beings a small recorder. And,
yeah,
so,
he was kind of concerned that it was okay that he have it.
Yeah, because when I gave it to him, I said, I'd like you to keep this as a souvenir. And he didn't seem to understand the word souvenir. And he said, what is a souvenir? And I said, it's a gift to remember me by. And he said, oh, okay. And so he took the recorder from me and he put it on the side of his belt, and it just kind of clung there. And so then I started thinking to myself, I hope I can find another one of those little recorders, because I kind of like the sound of that one. And immediately he took it off his belt and he handed it back to me, and he said, would you like it back? And I said, no, that's okay, you keep it. And he said, are you sure? And I said, yeah. I kept forgetting that they can read your thoughts and that he knew what I was thinking, you know. And so he took it, and it's probably in some alien museum somewhere out there on some other planet or something somewhere.
Hey, Steve, I was 10 miles away at that time. I lived in Fonthill, Ontario. I was 12 years old when you had that experience. Right. I went to Brock University in 1978. I've been to that pub.
Yeah. Well, I was hoping that if I make this story public, like do a video about it or include it in this book that I'm supposed to be writing. I just wish I could get back to it, but I get distracted too much. But I was hoping that somebody might see that video that was at Brock at that particular time and would remember the incident, and I could get some corroboration, because right now I have nobody to corroborate that part of the story, you know, only that I was, you know, missing for a while.
You can do a video on my show if you want. I got a YouTube talk show, The Brian Roos Show. I'd like to talk about UFO and higher realms, so I'll leave you my email here in the chat.
Okay, yeah. I'll leave you mine too then.
I think it's interesting too, guys, just talking about going back to the music, because that's just on my mind at the moment, is that I haven't heard in all the people I've spoken to and interviewed, anything about the Greys playing music or any of the other beings playing music, the Nordics or no one's ever reported to me that I've heard, I don't know about to you, Grant, or anybody else, that they've heard music on the craft or in any other planetary body they may have visited or whatever. Does anybody have anything about that?
Well, I haven't. No one else is speaking up.